challenges. A college, SS Jain Subodh PG Mahila Mahavidyalaya, was established under the aegis of SS Jain Subodh Siksha Samiti. The Samiti has completed more than 100 years in the field of education and is proudly running in its 102nd year to take forward its aim of imparting quality education and overall development of its faculties. Our SS Jain Subodh Mahila family has organized this faculty development program. We are also thankful to IBS Jaipur for their valuable association and support throughout the program. The FDP has the objective of throwing light on the emerging trends in higher education. It will also discuss the scope and challenges in academics. It is an attempt to enhance the faculties by providing them knowledge about the uses of innovative ideas and value education in teaching. I wish and hope this program will be beneficial for all of us, which is spread over 2 days with 4 sessions in total and 2 sessions for each day. Kindly note, feedback link will be available at the end of the session or at the end of the session in the chat box. To begin with the first day of FDP, we are honored to have participation by a large number of faculties from our own college as well as many other reputed institutions from various states. I'm extremely honored with the presence of our eminent speakers for the sessions today. A speaker for the first session on emerging trends in higher education, analyzing from academician's perspective, is Dr. Vivek Ranga, Director IBS Ahmedabad. With a strong academic profile, Sir has been associated with many reputed institutions. To his credit, he also has many articles published in highly reputed journals. For the second session, we have with us Dr. Shweta Jain, Dean IBS Jaipur. Ma'am is a management academician and soft skills trainer with over 20 years of experience. She has established aptitude in academic deliverance, faculty member, and soft skills trainer. Ma'am will take up the session on surviving the academia 360-degree scope and challenges. I heartily welcome both of our speakers for the day, Dr. Vivek Ranga and Dr. Shweta Jain. Welcome, sir. Welcome, ma'am. Also, we are pleased to welcome a respected principal, ma'am, Dr. Renu Joshi, ma'am, without whom this program would not have been a reality. A hearty welcome to you, ma'am.
Thanks.
We feel immensely grateful to all the faculty members from other institutions as well as our own institution to be here with us. A very warm welcome to all of you. Before moving further, I cordially invite Dr. Swati Jain, a program coordinator, to present a keynote on the FDP.
A very good afternoon to everyone present on this virtual interface. I, Dr. Swati Jain, Associate Professor at SS Jain Subodh, PG Mahila Mahavidyalaya, welcomes you all to this 2 days faculty development program on the 360-degree academia, scope and challenges. This 2 days FDP aims at enriching the knowledge of faculties through interaction with eminent personalities from academics. The knowledge sharing will surely improve the teaching and learning process and will ultimately benefit teachers as well as the other stakeholders in the academic environment. This 2 days FDP is divided into 4 sessions. In session 1, we have Dr. Vivek Ranga sir as a resource person who will speak on emerging trends in higher education, analyzing from academician's perspective. In second session, Dr. Shweta Jain ma'am is going to cover the topic Surviving the Academia, 360-degree scope and challenges. On day 2, that is tomorrow, we are fortunate to have with us Dr. Jyotsna Mehta with us. She will take up the third session on creativity, the elixir for 360-degree academia. Fourth and the last session will be on usage of innovative ideas and value education in teaching by Dr. Pavandeep Bindra. I hope and wish that these 2 days will provide an opportunity to all of us to enrich our knowledge, learning, and experiences. With this happy note, I would like to invite Principal of our college, Dr. Renu Joshi ma'am, to say a few words and formally start the FDP. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Dr. Swati, and good afternoon to everyone. everyone. Today, and we are feeling privileged that we are having an experienced speaker today. So I welcome Dr. Vivek Ranga and Dr. Shweta Jain this session, and I'm sure with these great and this session be very and it be we all the participants and we all faculty members we will be paid a lot. So I heartily welcome and invite Dr. Vivek Ranga to proceed further. So over to Dr. Vivek Ranga.
Yeah. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Dr. Renu Joshi, ma'am, Dr. Swati Jain, and Dr. Tanu Yadav. And just wanted to check if I'm audible rightly.
Yes, sir,
thanks. Yeah, thanks. It's really thank you, ma'am. It's really a privilege to be present here, and very, very happy to note that such a wonderful FDP has been organized, or 2 days, and so well knitted in terms of the kind of session planning has happened. I'm sure the students would be very fortunate to have these kind of faculties who are spending a lot of time, investing a lot of time in learning and touching upon various important aspects of academics. So very, very happy. And I always feel that, today's students are very fortunate because the faculty has suddenly become a constant learner. They are always in classes, and I think all of you would agree with me, last 15, 16 months, the kind of programs people have attended. I see so happy that a lot of my esteemed lady colleagues are there. I'm sure you would be getting complaints from household that, this lockdown has made you more busy in terms of, when you are at work from home. So I think your commitments at the household, I think fabulous balancing you do. And perhaps we have to learn from this, the way you manage both the sides. And I've been witnessing my colleagues, and I get more inspired on this in happening this kind of setup. So I think the students are very fortunate today because the faculties are learning. Perhaps when I look back my times, we had situations where we at least perceived, and it was not incorrect always, that, there were professors, there were teachers, all due respect. I think some of the professors had influenced us so much that we took this profession. But then we had some kind of things where, things were repeated, notes were repeated, all those, those kind of things are happening. But suddenly this has changed. We have seen classes were not happening. These days it doesn't happen that way. You have a lot of feedback mechanisms happening. I think when I look back, maybe many of you would agree with me, and the younger colleagues would be having a much, much better time. It was a lot of responsibility was on the learner, on the student, and a lot of times we felt that, अगर समझ में नहीं आ रहा तो उसको रट लो, कर लो. At least, that should be there. And those were the kind of things. I think things have changed a lot. My association with academics has been for last 21 years. And I see a sea change happening, the way things have been there since 2000, I'm talking about, until 2021. I think I have lived many lives, and I'm sure many of my senior colleagues would agree. In fact, I feel a little privileged to be invited by the Subodh group of college, because I recall 1991, when I was in Jaipur, I just completed my 12th, and there was a group college of Subodh group where I was thinking to take an admission, but I had to change a location, so I could not become part of this group. And I could, but let's tell you, 1991. The college which I had gone, one thing really impressed me. The kind of still remember it was. Yeah. I think some noise is coming. Yeah. So that infrastructure was very, very impressive, and that time also I remember I met a lady principal. I could have an opportunity to meet her, and she was saying, so I was new to Jaipur, but somehow, I had to move out. But it was very impressive, while we looked at a lot of other colleges at that time, but Subodh was standing out very, very tall apart. I had an opportunity to interact with some of the Subodh college faculty. So I feel a lot of privilege, and I really look forward whenever this pandemic is not there to come and visit to the campus and being again, to revisit. And people are telling there is a lot of expansion has happened, a lot of buildings, a lot of new departments, new colleges have come. I'm sure that was resonating that time as well. So I missed out to be a student of Subodh group. But nevertheless, world is small. We get some opportunity to connect. The topic is very interesting. In fact, the entire theme of FDP, while I was listening, it sounds very interesting in terms of, and I had been given a task to understand emerging trends in higher education, analyzing from academics perspective. This happened to be one of my very close area because I teach in a management program. And as a part of that, I do visit a lot of institutions, and I had a privilege to visit institutions in a lot of other countries outside India, and where I could develop a lot of, surprisingly very, very, very happy experience. I had something from coming from Africa and all those kind of institutions when I looked at business schools. Of course, the Europe and US are definitely the benchmarking institutions. But one thing I would say that all of you would agree that, only thing permanent is a change. I think, that's a very famous quote. And there are a lot of trends being built up. And if I talk about the delta, what is the changes have happened in last 15, 60 months, I'm sure much changes have happened. And a lot of trends, new trends have emerged. I was just attending one program with the Stanford Business School a few days back, and they were really talking about what is the veracity of having big campuses. Are we going to an era where we have classes without chairs? And I'm sure we are doing this last few months, and I don't know till what time we are going to do that. So I think a lot of things happening now because of one particular perspective is the COVID perspective, which has led to a lot of new trends emerging. We'll discuss this something later. But before COVID, if I also talk about the higher education space has seen a lot of changes. Last one year, the new with the announcement of new education policy and all, a lot of new changes are expected to come. A lot of education system is going to be really a pivotal changes would happen. But then also a lot of changes are happening. When I join, and normally people don't, only from the colleagues, because you would see your colleagues are much more experienced and in terms of age and all, and they've come with a long stint. So they're always wondering. So we had some similar people who are coming very young, and they were in academics. So we used to always wonder, like an Alice in the Wonderland. What is that we need to do? So this was a kind of thought. Even there was this challenge of acceptability in terms of when you go to the classes. Students used to perceive, okay, what this fellow is going to, because you'll more or less look like a student. And people believed that if you have failed in practicing, and that was the overriding thought, if you have failed in practicing, you start preaching. And that was the kind of things which was there. People felt, oh, you did not work in the industry, although I worked for 4 years, but then there were my colleagues who were straight out of the college and they joined. So that was a very challenging scenario. But I think one of the reasons today, when I talk to a lot of youngsters, they're very clear. When I talk to kids, they're very clear from schools, 11, 12, graduation, that they want to pursue PhD. See the kind of PhD programs output is coming today by IITs, IIMs, central universities, even the universities, the full-time PhD program. A lot of youngsters are joining and a lot of young talent is coming. So if you look at the work profile, the kind of aspired careers which has become an academic. So this has been one of the very big change driver in terms of education. Now the youngsters have really brought a lot of created new trends. They are the trendsetters in terms of doing that. So one is, of course, the composition is changing. Look at what should be looking at education. I keep happening towards when you look at the larger context institute. Second is I would look at what are the trends happening today in the perspective of a faculty. And third is the student. So these are the three pillars, I would say, which are creating trends. And why we should be knowing these trends? Because we of course we're becoming a lot of performance oriented. The entire academics is becoming a lot of performance oriented. A lot of planning is required today. The evaluative criteria are much higher in terms of today when you look at individual as a faculty, when you look at institute as a whole, because you're no longer part of your place, but you're part of a large ecosystem. You have been ranked, you have been accredited, your media is coming and ranking you. The kind of jobs which your graduates are getting are on public, you're on social media, you're on digital media. So I think all those things are making us very, very strongly to understand and look at this trend. Now this is very, very similar. And if that change has not been in tandem and you've not factored those changes, you suddenly become redundant. And today, I think it's a big, big problem of people having degrees, people have studied, but they don't have an employment. We're still talking about a lot of surveys which they say that, okay, so and so many people are not employable today. So I think that creates a lot of pressure in terms of, the employability factor, the success factor of an institution. So I think it becomes very important, very, very critical for all of us to understand this trend, not only at one, but on a continuous basis. I will just try to take you a little example, how things have happened. We were typically seen, like if I talk about maybe early 90s, when we were getting into the career modes, and the mid 90s parts, India was just getting into the liberalization part and all. Not private sector jobs were there. You had typically medical, engineering, those were the kind of civil services was a good option. Banking was another with probationary officers. Those were the kind of career options people were looking. Engineering services, Indian economic services. These were the kind of jobs where people looked at those jobs. But the whole jobs created things happening. One of the major driver was your liberalization, privatization, what happened, the new economic policy. Suddenly, the second wave came with the .com thing, where you saw a lot of IT things happening, and that created a lot of demand for. And we moved. The capacity really got expanded, maybe around 2000. The number of institutions were mushrooming. The more number of institutions came, the private number of institutions really expanded. You had a lot of these kind of colleges started coming in. So the numbers were more. In fact, there was a lot of expansion, a lot of drives from the government in terms of happening, where the number of IITs, number of engineering colleges, you had something like a triple IITs happening. You had central university kind of concepts coming in. Your number of IIMs getting increased. Your NITs increasing. So you would see a lot of time from rationing, where you were talking about a very selected institutions in terms of a particular domain. The capacity really expanded. And there are more choices available today, and the more seats were available. Typically, when you start looking at it from the top perspective, take an example of IITs or central universities. So that has really created things in terms of new breed of education enterprise. So when I look at today, institution, the formats of institutions have really changed. We are talking about. And this is very similar, very much in sync today in lot of spheres of things in our life. Those have changed. So why not the education would change? And what are the trendsetters? Today, I think the way we shop has changed. I'm sure all of you would agree. The big baskets, Amazons and Flipkarts and all those kind of stuff is really, we can't think really for that life. I'm sure if you go back to your mobile phones, you would have your Amazon's apps and Flipkart apps and whatnot, those kind of online shopping, or maybe Zomato or Swiggy. So I think things have changed. How are we buying? How are we eating? How are we banking? And today, I think many of us would not even go to bank. I don't recollect when I had gone to the bank last time. Okay, the way we do a lot of transactions, the way we book our tickets, travel, plan our holidays, the way we watch movies today, I think those things have changed, and that has really created reasons for many of the businesses are really struggling today. The kind of litigations for unfair practices, if you go and see retailers fighting the wars against Amazons or maybe the e-coms, I think those were there. So things are really changing, and change is very fast. And technology, internet was one enabler. Second was the smartphone was another enabler. And the third enabler, of course, the disruption was brought by something like a bandwidth consumption by something like a geo revolution happened. And Corona has really built up all those things. So this has really changed our lifestyle. We have been talking about technological interference, which has brought a really radical change happening. So when I come back to these three pillars, it's very imperative that we try to understand each one of these pillars in detail and develop our perspective, our thoughts, that where are we fitting into this change happening, where are we fitting into the trend line, what is that thought has started, how do we do that? We do one thing with our faculties, like we talk about something like a Delta seminars. We talked about what are the change happening. So I come from marketing domain, so I do talk about what are the changes happening in my marketing domain. Somebody of my colleague would be from finance. They would talk about something, what is happening in finance, human resource, information technology. Yesterday, in one of our faculty meeting, one of my colleagues was talking about what is the change happening today in UK, and they were talking about that how high fat sugar content in UK they have banned it, and no longer they will be available on shelf, because they realize when you have this high fat sugar content goods been kept on a retail aisles, people would engage in impulse buying, and when they buy the sugar things, high fat sugar things, they would get obese. So the concern is more to be in a healthy country, and because of that a regulation has come in place that you can't stock this high fat sugar content things. So you would see how smoking has happened today. I think we were of the era where Amitabh Bachchan, Angry Young Man, and the Indian movies, people would be smoking and showing all the kind of style. But today, I think smoking is seen very down. I would not be categorical to be anything, but please excuse me. But I think we really have those things where norms have changed. So when I look at institution, I would say the format in which institutions have existed, new forms of education have come. We had a very interesting evolution happened in information technology in technology IITs. India set up a lot of IITs in the early after independence, and we had typically 4 and 6 IITs, the Mumbai, Delhi, Madras, Kharagpur. These were the IITs. But then a lot of IITs were added. Subsequent to that, to be in tandem with what was happening in information technology area, internet revolution, the triple ITs were added, and triple ITs were added at a lot of locations. And over a period of time, what government has done, there is also a model of a public-private partnership. So you would have typically maybe triple IT Lucknow, or triple IT Raipur, or triple IT Hyderabad, triple IT Bangalore, or triple IT Barodara, Surat. They are all working in a public-private partnership mode. So ownership has changed. So when we look at the institution perspective, there are changes happening. So earlier you had an institution which was government. There were private institutions like Subodh has been 100 years old institution. I understand it comes with a very reputed group from North India. Similarly, you have a lot of institutions in Gujarat, or maybe all locations all over the country, where you had a lot of philanthropic enterprise initiatives of the private entities, which have created a set of institutions, and today we have excellent institutions been built up. Those kind of, so private sector was there. The trust-based institutions came. And those were you may have something very different formats now coming up. You have a South Asian University in Delhi today, where you are running programs of international nature, and the faculty and everybody's paid. If you go to the South Asian University website, the salaries are mentioned in dollars. So you're talking about an institute in India with an international standards. You have Indian School of Business coming in. There's something very big, ambitious plan of coming like a Geo Institute today. So I'm not endorsing any reliance or something, but you have something like coming like a Geo Institute. We already started talking about Institute of Eminence, and that means a sea change is happening in terms of the institutional perspective. So when I look at the institution, a lot of emphasis has been there on quality. quality in terms of teaching, quality in terms of research, quality in terms of innovations the institutions have done, quality in terms of the faculty training, the faculty development. I think faculty development has become very, very serious area of concern and importance today. And I feel really very happy where the kind of attempts are being made to develop the faculty. So what is happening at one side, when you have this institutional context changing, of course, this is actually creating a lot of symbiotic climate for which is influencing the learner and maybe giving a lot of contribution to where the graduates are going. So what is happening today? So institute level of change is happening and trends. And if I look at the kind of trends, Professor Anil Dixit is mentioning online classes, teaching FDP is now new common thing, will be a part of education. Yeah, very true, Dr. Dixit. But I totally endorse your views. What is now happening with these kind of changes happening? You are creating a metric in terms of a performance dimension. So you have rankings happening today. You have rankings done by media agencies. You have rankings like CRISIL happening. You have something like a Times of India does a ranking. You have something. That means whatever you are trying to do at the institute level today is being evaluated. So one of the very strong mechanism, and many of you are in a leadership position, many of you would become leadership positions in terms of times to come. You need to be very, very careful in planning that whatever I'm trying to do, what is the kind of metric I would do. Earlier, a lot of criteria were there for infrastructure, that your classroom should be this many square feet, the campus should be these many acres. But today, I think that trend, although that exists, but a lot of emphasis in terms of the quality dimensions. Earlier, it was only publication, but today we are talking about where is that publication happening? What is the kind of what kind of journals it is happening? What is the impact factor of these journals? What is the kind of citations you are getting? So I think within the institute has to be very, very carefully planning about how do you really try to build up over these trends. And if you see, the trend is getting more participation of the entire stakeholders we're talking about. So you have industry people sitting on the board, you have alumni sitting on your boards, and you have a governing council, you have trust space. So I think a lot of changes would happen. And when we are going towards something like a new education policy, when you're talking about some choice-based credit system, we're talking about the entire overhauling of the kind of choices a learner would have. I'm sure that will set a lot of new tone in way the institutions are progressing. No longer we are only into the walls of a science, commerce, humanities, or engineering. You'll have a semblance of all those kind of things happening today. So a student may go for a science, but have an electives of humanities or commerce or arts. Something like that would happen. So I think a lot of thin lines would diminish in terms of the changes happening. What is another trend would happening today? We are at the global arena today. Because of the virtual connectivity, and I definitely see possibility once you have the foreign education bill coming, the university open repositories you have. I think institutes' health is evaluated, a credibility has been built up on all these things we are doing. We're no longer an institution today, even though we are operating in any corner today. I think a lot of innovation has been coming, and I would really want you to look at those kind of things happening today with the best of the institutions, maybe all at maybe go to the interiors. I had been to an institute which was located in a very interior part of Madhya Pradesh, and they said that the students were not coming to the classes, and they built up a lot of interesting interventions while they had imbibed things from KBC, Kaun Banega Crorepati, and they created the entire lab. They created all the subjects, and they animated those things which were the students were appearing, and the evaluations were done. Now this is something I'm talking about 2012, 9 years back, and I see that institution in maybe a very, very near, remotely located from Indore. So these kind of innovations are happening. I was attending a seminar where one of the the co-panelists, they are trying to develop a learning management system for 800 colleges in Maharashtra. So I think you're not only utilizing facilities for yourself, but also you're creating a co-practicing for other institutions. So one thing, when I look at this trends happening at the institution level, we have looked at governance level. It will be a lot of changes happening trend wise. The education is trending, and will be evaluated how relevant today your curriculum would stand. Or what is the kind of upgradation would happen? What is the, and people would come and ask, what is the kind of, where are the employment, where are your alumni, where are your students, where are your teachers coming in? I was participating in a survey, and a ranking agency, and the ranking agency came up with a very beautiful questions, and they said, we want you to answer 3 questions. One was, why a student is joining your institute? So can I answer that? Why my student is joining to that? Second is, why a faculty is joining your institute? A faculty influencer. Why a support staff is joining your institute? A non-teaching, somebody who's not teaching in the class, but why is joining? So tell us the 3 reasons for this kind of employees, because they are going to be the biggest influencer how an institution would be formed. So when I look at from the institute perspective, one of the changes happening is you need to really imbibe new practices happening going forward. Maybe in teaching, research, learning, recruitment, all those kind of things happening. And those who are been part of a larger system, so you have an accountability coming in. If you're a setup of a corporate part, you have your own accountability measures, which is a lot of corporatization of the institutions have happened. You we'll just go and see the kind of annual report, the disclosures are being made by the institutions. I think this has come a long way, and I'm sure that the kind of quality of education would come in. Yes, there are parents which will try to come back and maybe try to address it. So the institute level changes are really influencing a lot of changes and building a lot of interesting trends happening in terms of higher education. Now, when we go across higher education, now higher education in India is something which people did not pursue. Like we had a lesser number of institutions. The institutions have really mushroomed. We were talking about, but today, when you go back for jobs, when you go for employments, I think a graduation degree would not really help. You need to move to the post-graduation level. You need to expand your horizons. So I think faculty level changes, and I often interact with faculty. We have done some programs with government faculties, and I tell you, I would not, but there are often complaints coming in, and I'm sure that part would be addressed by Shweta as well. Faculty is always asking question, am I going to teach or am I going to do an administrative activity? Do I balance my teaching or research? What should I do? Now, I get very amused at the second question. When people would ask, what should I focus? Should I focus on teaching? Should I focus on research? But when this question has been asked, I used to also ask this question to my dean when I was in the early part of the career. But over a period of time, I realized that they are the same side, 2 different sides of the same coin. I think your teaching stimulates a lot of research ideas, and if you can take your teaching to a research and publication, I think it has a lot of acceptance chances for good journals or good publication, and a lot of credibility being built up as an academician. Your research will really enhance your teaching. I always feel that the biggest contribution the PhD which has done is the way you are approaching a subject. So I think your research is, so one is of course these parts. So as a faculty today, when we were looking at trends in education, one of the thing is research is inevitable, and as people say, publish or perish. So if you don't publish, you've gone. And I would say don't publish. I think in the quality journals, and because I really get concern the kind of articles which I get because I'm editor of a few two journals and some reviewer at some conferences and some of the journals. The way the articles are written, I think a lot of training is required here, and a faculty job cannot be a part-time job. A lot of my friends used to tell me, earlier, यार तुम तो professor हो, बड़ा अच्छा relaxed job है, तुमको क्या tension है? No, we are working in the industry, we are working in civil services, we are IAS, we are doctors, and we are so. I was telling that, our job, till that time, if you have a class tomorrow, you would have almost a sleepless night. I'm sure everyone would agree. If you have a class tomorrow, you would still, you're carrying your workplace always here. See, maybe an IAS or somebody else, yes, their jobs are also very difficult jobs, but their job ends there and there. But we always have our work from home kind of mental frame. We're still preparing, we're still studying. Or the class is something, an occasion of emergency for you. I'm sure people in your family would pay a cost of being academicians. So I think that is what it really matters today. And when you're talking about a work from home syndrome, I think that has really increased. You are speaking to a screen. I'm very so happy that many of you have put on your cameras, and that actually makes us, move. And I really get inspired by Dr. Enu is there. She has been responding. It encourages. Now imagine while you're talking to a student would not open up their cameras, and they talk about bandwidth, they talk about something else, and there are various reasons of them not opening up a camera. I really get wondered about that, and I had to tell them. Now, what I did, I became so cruel this semester. I said, I'm going to award you some marks if you open up your camera. Okay, so I've kept my teaching assistant, and he scores how many times you put on your cameras and all. I say, yeah, come on. Now you're talking about 1 year now down the line, and you're not opening up a camera. Now there are very fancy reasons, and what is happening because of this infatuation, I would say, of students, our performance gets impacted. You can't speak to a 6x6 monitor. I was seeing my son, he completed from 10th and he's becoming into 11th. When this lockdown thing started in March, who was a good teacher? A good teacher was somebody who was not asking to open up a camera. And they used to say, this ma'am is very, very good, because she doesn't ask us to open camera. This sir is bad because, he is always asking us to put on the camera. Slowly it changed. 4 or 5 months, they realized, having on camera was good. And suddenly I asked them that, what is making you trouble to not open up your camera? You see, Papa, that, the cupboards at the background are not very impressive. And I don't feel like it. I said, is that cupboard coming in your way? Not till before 2020, it was never going to be there. Now the teacher is struggling, teacher is sending an Excel sheet, WhatsApp messages, and you are a teacher in a private school, and they would call us and say, and I always had so much respect for those teachers, and they were doing a lot of things. They were calling the students, why the students are not there, and then you have a very stupid reason like a cupboard is not good and you're not opening up. So I said, let us get. I said, I'll remove that cupboard. I got that cupboard removed, and you could see a plain wall being there now. Then I told my son that this was a very stupid reason for which you are not opening. He said, Papa, I was still rational. I said, मैं तो फिर ठीक हूँ. मेरे यहाँ तो लोग कैमरा इसलिए ऑन नहीं करते क्योंकि उनके किसी के पिंपल्स आ रहे हैं या किसी ने because growing kids, 15, 16 years. So somebody is getting a beard, somebody is getting shaved. And imagine all this impact is, or somebody says, I stay in a very, very traditional house, or mera interior acha nahi hai. Now, do you think as a faculty, these all things matter to our teachers? Not. They were not really, really worried. They were just focusing on teaching. But today, when I look at faculty, one of the trend is we are responsible for a host of the things. I always feel, even before COVID, we were like actors. We get into the class because you have feedback happening. You had, like I was doing a program for Gujarat government teachers, and they were saying that some of the classes are video classes, where the director of technical education is watching them. and it's almost like वो शेर के सामने आप जा रहे हो and your video being recorded and it becomes an occasion. Week में आपकी एक video class होने वाली. This is something I'm talking about pre-COVID stage. So today, what is happening to a faculty? The faculty, and I'm sure Shweta would really underpin this very, very robustly. Today, the expectation from the faculty is very high. I don't have a cartoon and that I don't have that PPT in which I had a cartoon. 30 years back, if you did not score well, you were being pulled up. If you were not scoring well, I'm sure many of you would have been knowing. If you get less marks, you get a slap from your papa or your parents. But today, if a student doesn't get to do good, the teacher is in question. Immediately the parents would be there and say, they say, what are you teaching? You're taking so much fees. And I'm sure this year, last 15, 16 months, all of you are coming and you will be hearing those kind of things that, okay, we are not in campus, please reduce the fees. I am not using the air condition, please reduce the fees. All those kind of things. I think the expectation today from the faculties are much, much more, and it is creating a trend which our roles are getting changed. What I feel today, we are no longer teachers, we are almost like an actors. A lot we have to do in terms of our programming of our classes. And until the time we are on online, we experiment with something. We said that, we were doing this class and all, we reduced the class timing. We were 1 hour, 30 minutes, we reduced to, 75 minutes, all those kind of things, because we find that, there were complaints coming in, all those kind of, we did something, experimented with the format. And we did a midnight class. And really students enjoyed that. So what is happening today? Today, your stakeholder expectation is influencing the roles. So if you look at the trends in perspective of the faculty, you have to be, the role of the faculty has really, really changed as compared to what has been happening. Second, if I look at today, your teaching has to become really relevant, and you're talking to maybe like when you're college, you're talking to somebody who has learned Byju's. Nothing against or nothing endorsement of a Byju's, but see the learner, and very, very innovative way. So I was just watching the content of a Byju's. For teaching a circle, you're talking about giving an illustration of how from a triangle. Very, very profound concept, a very, very profound way of teaching that circle, that concept. So I think your learner is going to ask a lot of questions of why this is happening, where this is applicable. So we have to focus on W's rather than how's. I think one of the changes happening today in trends and happening is our teaching has to become learner-centric rather than teacher-centric. Today we'll have to answer the two questions while we're teaching. How do I see my student after he or she graduates from the institution? Can I look at that? I tell you, we were doing a program with very, very down primary government schools, and we've been there with some observation study. Amazing kind of things we found, and we really felt that what are we doing now there? We had gone to a school which is on the below the underbridges, and where the children of laborers and workers are coming there. Now, when we had gone there, when we witnessed those classes, we realized that teachers were teaching them. I'm talking something again much before COVID. They were they were teaching these kids by showing a tomato, and they were rhythmically telling that, tomato is of red color, lal tomato, or, they were rhyming it out and telling people that tomato is good for health. They were doing with rhyming and poetry and all those kind of stuff while So we asked them, what is the way you decide your teaching styles and teaching content? They said many of these people would become vendors of maybe a food stalls. They would have a pani puri stall, or they would have some tea stalls or something like that when they grow up. So what we are trying to do is teach them hygiene. And this is the way they teach them something like an hygiene where these students have been taught. So what these students have done, what these teachers have done, they looked at what is the employment of these students going to be, what is the behavior they instill maybe at 5-6 years age, which gets internalized with them. I really wonder. am I asking those questions that what is my student going to be? What kind of job is going to be doing? Okay, I teach advertising or I teach strategic marketing, but can I look at much more closely what is the kind of job my student is going to do and how is going to be looking like when he or she graduates? So that is a learner-centric approach where you not only you're teaching, but you're also focusing on what is the kind of employment my student or what is the kind of profession would happen. So I think if one of the trend is rewarding this attempt of faculty, I think if you go towards all these education journals, if you look at conferences today, you again look at rankings and all, one of the trend is faculty's concern on the learner's concern is very high. Whether you're in science education, whether you're in commerce education, whether you're in engineering, those things. And I think we are getting evaluated. I'm sure you would know that when you're conducting classes online, it's not you're only addressing to the learner or the student. Perhaps initial days, our entire family was sitting. The parents were sitting with the classes, and just day before yesterday, I was interacting with the doctor, and his son has got 1 year completed. He completed an MBBS, and he's doctor. And he said, "मैं देखता हूँ बच्चा कैसे पढ़ रहा है मेडिकल को एक साल तक online में." So I think these are the changes happening today. So one of the very, very changing trend happening in teaching is how a teaching can be relevant, how it can be interacting, how you can create more innovative content, how you can have innovations. And I was very happy to listen that your FDP today's program, FDP, is talking about creativity, talking about innovations, which is a very, very handy skills today for a teacher. So these are the best practices happening today. How can I engage my student better, and how do I retain them? I think this is the biggest challenge happening, and these are the trends focusing. You go and look at any international seminars, you go and sample the MOOC courses available. They're all talking about various perspectives of there are courses like to be happy, how to make students happy. The universities are running this kind of courses. So I think when you look at this kind of trends happening in terms of the faculty centric. The third, I am just left with 2-3 minutes more. I am sure you have a lot of deliberations on this in terms of the third most important trend setter is a student. And we need to really extend our thought in understanding this component who's a big trend setter. And to do that, please look into that. What is influencing your learner today? What is influencing a student today? A lot of times I really get concerned when the faculties come and say, students are not paying attention, they are not prepared. Things. I think we need to decide, are we pathologists or are we doctors? That is what we have to do. A pathologist tests your blood glucose level and tell you a numeric score. A doctor actually creates a treatment. So our thing is not only looking at the symptom, but our focus has to be in treatment. The students are not going to pay attention. They have a lot of influences. They have a divided attentions happening. There are various pre-biases. They have a lot of pressures happening. While they are sitting on the class, they are actually concerned what is happening to my WhatsApp, what's happening to my Instagram account, what is happening to my Facebook account. They're all concerned on those lines. But we really need to understand, underpin these influences happening, and plan out your teaching styles, plan out your research styles. When you do this three components in a systematic manner, I'm sure all of you would be doing this, but again, a more systematic approach to underpin these influences of these factors been happening, and this would perhaps create a lot of new way for us. What is the next things being looking forward for in times to come? We're still not sure. We're going to be operating like this. I think the perennial question to all of us as of now remains, when are the students coming to the campus? When are we coming to the offline classes? Certain people are saying, okay, it will happen very soon. At times we are hearing that maybe somebody is saying, okay, it's 2025 tak aise hi chalne wala hai. Okay, all those kind of things are going to remain. So I think these are very important for us to predict what is going to happen and how are we going to do that. Because what I feel today, we are an influencer to a lot of students studying at you. And I think that influence is really, really reduced because of online, but still you have the power of influencing. I think all of us today are not only ourselves, but we also have imbibed many things from our teachers. Look back and sit with yourself. You would know the person who was teaching you economics, and you have imbibed those styles. You like those styles of the teachers, the way they were teaching. So I think we can influence the students' generations today, and that is what. So my only end note would be that the trend is building towards more learner centric rather than getting into teacher centric, and that is doing. And a lot of these things, when I was sharing with you that when I'd gone to colleges in Africa and all, I was really amazed to see the kind of publications they've done, the kind of difficult scenarios in which the institutions are operating, but they've come up with a very, very strong mechanisms in which the faculties are publishing. So I think a lot of learner-centric approach will influence the way, and you would play a very important role. So I end up here really, really very encouraging to listen all of you and to see all of you. It's been very, very inspiring, and that all of you have been sincerely doing that. I really feel so fortunate, and the students should feel really value what they are getting from all of you. And thank you, all of you. And I'll sincerely look forward whenever we have an opportunity. And let's God bless us all. Thank you very much.
With this, and first, so much, sir, for such thoughtful. With this, we come to the end of our first session. Thank you so much, sir, for such an interesting start and the pool of knowledge that you provided us all. I'm sure everyone has been listening. I'd also like to thank you for your valuable presence and time. It was a pleasure having you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Before moving forward, I request everyone to kindly switch on their cameras for a group photo. Ma'am, are we done? Hold on, please. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, sir. Now it's time. That is the last session for today. For this, I request Dr. Shweta Jain to kindly take over and enlighten us. Thank you.
Hello, Swati ma'am. I hope you remember that we had, and we were looking forward to have some more interventions at your campus. Sir, somehow today I feel that, how should I put it? You always put me in a dilemma. When you start, I feel that you've made everything so easy for me. You've established the entire plot and I can very smoothly sail through. And then you bring so much of observation, insights, and I find that I may not be able to weave everything because you bring in so much to the discussion just because of your, the amazing experience and your function. So to connect the dots and bring out something that would be an extension to what you have said, I miserably fail to do that, sir, because you bring in so much. So just attempting, sir, to see if I can draw some sample for that. So happy afternoon, friends. And I hope I'm able to project this slide well. If I can just get a confirmation. Tanwam, I hope the projection is clear.
Yes, it is clear.
So, as I was discussing, that there are so many changes coming around us and that kind of rapid pace. I remember Sir telling me once that Shweta, things have never changed that fast the way they are changing today, and perhaps they will never change as slow as they are changing today. So whatever is going to happen at a faster pace, and maybe we are moving towards times where every day, we talk about our academic firm, academic ecosystem, the expectations, the dynamics, the driving forces, the enablers, they're changing rapidly. And a lot of appreciation for the team of the organizing institution. Subodh College has always been a pioneer in bringing together a lot of academicians from all corners to see how collectively we can collaborate and exchange a lot of knowledge, perspectives, and insights to see how higher education in Rajasthan grows. And on the same lines, I thought that Sir has apprised us of a lot of changes and developments happening around us. So how do we kind of devise in our own capacities, our plans to cope with these challenges and see how we can contribute in growing the academia and also see how we can contribute in collaborating the academia with industry and minimizing the gap or bridging the gap that we've often been accused of, that academia is not adequately being able to serve the industry. So how do our efforts help in mapping this gap? And over and above this, how do we see that all different types of expectations that come from all corners, from us as academicians, how do we fulfill those expectations and how do we see that we justify our roles with pride and we may say gratification? So are we good to start, friends? Can I just have a quick confirmation in the chat box? I would start with this concept that has always fascinated me. Most of us know that, okay, what is a coat of arms? Let me understand it from the participants here. The reason, once we are able to say how do we interpret the concept of coat of arms, we'll be able to attempt this exercise nicely. Just a 1-minute exercise, but I would really appreciate if somebody from the can help, responding in the chat box or maybe unmuting and speaking. How do we look at this coat of arms? What is it? I mean, I would welcome any of the participants here to share their idea about coat of arms. I think I have a quick response in the chat box. Okay, Vinodini ji writes emblem. Can we just extend it a little bit, Vinodini ji? We all have seen coat of arms and maybe we've not given that thought to understand what does it represent, what does it reflect, what does it testify. So now that I've got very few responses, I've got some direct responses to me. So, okay, a shield, something that represents us, a logo. Let me put it in a more precise manner. In defense services, there's a kind of precision of servicemen. So all your awards, your recognitions, the accolades, they are kind of consolidated coat of arms. So when we have a glance at the coat of arms of any of these officers, we get to understand how decorated or celebrated your career has been, what have been your accomplishments. The coat of arms is a reflection or a representation of our accomplishments, our achievements, and the honors and awards that we have been. I'm talking in context of defense. Now, why have I brought this idea of coat of arms here? Because we also represent a profession that is serving the humanity, the society, civilization. Education is goes from generation to generation. So what we accomplish in our careers or in our lifetimes is also something that needs to be celebrated, that needs to be acknowledged, that needs to be appreciated, and that needs to be, represented beautifully. So I would just request a few seconds from all the co-participants here. Just have a look at this coat of arms and see that there are 3 sections here. So I would appreciate if we can just try doing this, that in these 3 sections, we put 3 different things. You may just make a note in your notepad. The first section, let us assume, would correspond to what have been your achievement till this time. If you try to write it in a line or 2, that what have you achieved as an academician or as an individual till this point of time. The second section of the coat of arms, we may assume, talks about what do we wish to achieve. The reason I'm looking at a futuristic exercise, maybe 20 years, 15 years, 10 years from this time, when you look at your coat of arms, how do you want it to appear as? What do you want that your coat of arms should reflect about? So the first section is, till this moment, what do you think has been your, significant achievement as an academician or as an individual? The second section would perhaps correspond to how do you look or what do you expect to achieve in the next 10, 15 years? And the third section would be perhaps on the day of your retirement, how would you like people to talk about you? Or what are those achievements, contributions, accomplishments that you want people to take a note of, or maybe, just revisit while they give you a farewell or maybe a felicitation on your superannuation. So I hope my question is clear, friends. Just these 3 sections, that is a coat of arms that you wish to see for yourself after a few years when you look at your life and you see what have you achieved and how does your coat of arms look like. So the first section, what have you achieved till this time? The second section, what do you wish to achieve in the coming times? And the third section is like assuming that it is your superannuation or your retirement day, you're being felicitated and you wish to see that this is what people talk about. So please feel free to ask any questions if you need any assistance or clarification. And I would really love if some of the friends here would share what have they written or how do they want their coat of arms to look like. So can I have some responses from the friends? Maybe you may unmute or speak or you may write in the chat box. How do you want your coat of arms to look like? How do you want the world to remember you or your contribution as an academician? Before we start that, what are the challenges for a 360-degree academician or what is the scope? Let us understand how do we look at our life as an academician. So I'm waiting for some responses in the chat box, or maybe if any of our friends would like to unmute and speak. I would appreciate if Principal Madam initiates with the honors and if she does this. We'd be delighted, ma'am, if we could hear from you. How do you wish to be, remembered as an academician? So there are certain responses coming directly. I would say that these are good enough to be shared with the group. So let everyone get an opportunity to see what we aspire to do as educationists in our life. Okay, so ma'am, thank you. You write that you want to be remembered as a good human being.
Madam.
Yes, ma'am.
Madam, good afternoon. Initially, these 3, what you mentioned, the first stage would be a learning for the teacher also. As a teacher for me, and then at the second stage, I wanted to, equip with whatever I was learning, well equipped, to transform as an expert in this particular field. And in the third stage, how the world has to see. I wanted to be inspiring or transforming students to achieve their aspirations. So that kind of, a leader or a teacher I wanted to be. So the world should recognize me in that way, a transforming person who can transform to fulfill their goals.
Absolutely delightful, Vinodji. You've so beautifully put that you want to be remembered as a transformational educationist. And I would talk about academic leadership and how I believe that the true way of looking at academic leadership is transformational leadership. Thank you so much for that input. And thank you, Principal Ma'am. She writes that she wishes to be remembered as a good human being. So the prime objective that we carry with us is being a good human being. Dr. Monica Wright, she would like to be remembered as an efficient teacher. Okay, so some other messages that have come directly to me. People write they want to be remembered as a prolific researcher. That is what I get to read in the chat box. So there is something like a research objective, but most of us are responding like, how do we contribute to the lives of our students? Or we wish to be remembered as somebody who's touched the lives of many students very positively and shaped their lives and their career. So this is a kind of crux that I get to remember from the inputs that I got in the chat box. So the reason why I introduced this exercise was, let everybody else set what a teacher should be doing. So it is so easy to make a pronouncement or to preach what an ideal teacher should be doing. But the first step should be, what do we want to do as a teacher? Now, I've always appreciated that fact. If it is an appraisal, it has to be a self-appraisal. If it is an assessment, it has to be a self-assessment. If it is an acknowledgement, in the first place, it has to be self-acknowledgement. So in our own souls, how good are we to understand what do we wish to do as a teacher? And that is it. Or you just try and sketch a coat of arms for yourself. Moving further, now when I write that this is what I want to achieve in my career, we understand that we are working in an ecosystem, education, higher education per se. There are so many stakeholders in this entire system. Stakeholders as in students, parents, the institution, owners or management, the regulatory bodies, the industry, recruiters or the larger industry who are absorbing the products that come out from our institutions. So the students or the professionals who we train and prepare tomorrow are going to serve in the industry. So ultimately it is the industry who's going to, pronounce whether or not our outcomes or our deliverables are meeting their expectations. So maybe the industry and the recruiters. I would perhaps say another set of stakeholders for us is the larger society, because society sets in a lot of expectations from the educational institutions. And I may say that as an individual, if I look, a lot of my colleagues and the people in my surrounding who I work with would also have a lot of expectations. We also see that there are a lot of expectations that are even as Sir said, why would your faculty wish to join a college? Why would your support staff wish to join a college? Why would your administrative staff wish to join a college? So when I say stakeholders, people who expect from us would include our students, our the parents or guardians of the students, the society, the industry, the regulatory bodies, the management or owners of our institution, or maybe our HODs, and then maybe our colleagues within the academic fraternity and the administrative and support team also. So there are several parties who are the stakeholders. I have some responses on the chat box. Okay. So when I say that I am into an industry or I'm into a profession or I'm into a career where I'm catering to the expectations of so many people around. We as teachers are not just serving the students, we are serving multiple parties. So imagine how complex our job is or how complex our responsibility is, because we are in a way serving multiple stakeholders and striving every single day to meet their expectations adequately, or maybe to outperform in terms of meeting the expectations. This is one question. I would really love if our friends could add to the chat box in helping me understand now what are the expectations. In the first place, we've been able to understand who are the ones who set expectations. In the second phase, we need to understand what are the expectations. What are we expected to deliver or to execute or to perform as a teacher? So very quickly, can I have responses in the chat box? Now that we know that who all are the parties who set expectations from us, what are the expectations? That I can collect from the responses is effective teaching, wonderful teaching, very holistic teaching experience, learning experience. Okay, Swati ma'am writes to be disciplined and punctual. Ma'am, I would put it more precisely like, how do you think, ma'am, your management or your students or the recruiters expect kya cheezein aapko karni hogi? What are the different sets of activities that you're expected to be engaged in or deliver? One, of course, is the prime responsibility teaching, classroom teaching, or maybe today we are teaching on virtual systems. Maybe a lot of research, as Sir said, that if publish or perish. So So one kind of output that we are expected to deliver is research, intellectual capital. We are expected to deliver a lot of academic excellence. Strategy writes to make sure that we help the students implement the theories that we teach so that they can implement it practically. So most of us are writing justice to teaching. So as Ranga sir said that initially everybody comes to this domain assuming that you are here to teach. But there is an interesting response: teaching, research, and brand building of college. That is wonderful. Thank you, Vinodini. So we are definitely expected to deliver on the dimensions of teaching, deliver on the dimensions of research, deliver on the dimensions of institution building, deliver on the dimension of administrative responsibilities, as Dr. Bushi Gupta is writing. We are expected to deliver on the dimension of corporate relations or interface, generating a lot of internship and placement opportunities for our students. We are expected to contribute into a lot of administrative work that includes student activities, campus maintenance, or it may even be community outreach, or it may be those branding interventions in different ways, those cultural activities, those sports activities. And then we have a lot to do with the examinations, evaluations, setting of question papers, and counseling of students, grooming of students, and above all, perhaps many of us are hesitant in writing admissions. We are expected to be a process owner in admissions also. So if we look at the entire cycle of operations in a higher education institution, starting right from admissions to giving a complete or a holistic experience to the students at campus, effective classroom teaching, then research and intellectual capital, administrative responsibilities, student development, institution building, community outreach programs, and then a lot of expectations that regulatory bodies have from us to fulfill all the essential parameters that participants agree to. So can we just have a yes or no in the chat box to believe that we are on the right track, that yes, this is what we believe is an academician expected to do, and this is the environment in which we are working. Before I try to, talk on some lines that how do we balance all these things. Right. Thank you, ma'am. So now coming to this, how do we balance these things? Now, this is perhaps, since Sir said that both of us represent management institutions, we come from these schools. So often we are very fond of designing these kind of, metrics, and we are trying to put in things in different quadrants and see how do we align a very fancy name to these things. No, we assign some interesting nomenclature, but this was a very simple model that I was trying to develop, and I've not put any content to it because I would request the participants to put contents to this. What I'm trying to draw here is, out of all the activities, think aloud and try to recall what all we are doing. Like the other day, I was talking to a few of my colleagues and I was just listing what were the different things that we are expected to do. So there was a huge list, some 30, 35 things that we see as our daily responsibilities, or maybe recurring responsibilities, or once in a while we do certain things. So when we list all the things that we are doing, starting from teaching X number of courses, or maybe setting question papers, exam invigilation, evaluating the answer scripts, or maybe research and publications, participating in seminars, conferences, etc., participating in student activities or institution building activities, securing or trying to get projects or consultancy assignments for our institution, and then those administrative responsibilities and documentation, then being on the different types of statutory bodies and boards and contributing in developing curriculum and instructional designing, and then it may be something related to developing a corporate interface, getting in more industry people to institution, or something like placements, internships, projects for our students. So all the things that you do in your institution. I'm not trying to generalize that each of us come from the same kind of institution. We come from different domains, different institutions, so there will be a different set of activities that we are involved in. The only thing that we need to do is just list the activities and try doing this co-activities. Now, you may try this exercise in the evening. I'm not expecting you to do this now. Simply segregate. Now, suppose if I take an activity like teaching. Teaching is essential to your personal development. Being an excellent teacher, being a very celebrated teacher is definitely what tops our wish list. So what is something that is important or you can put as priority to your personal development? As Sir said, that research perhaps would be a priority for every academician. You want to have more and more research to your credit. teaching, research, definitely something which is high on organizational development and high on personal development. The more you publish, the more intellectual capital you generate, more accolades it would earn for you as well as the institution. Be it a university, be it a college, be it an affiliated college, be it an autonomous college. I'm just saying there are certain activities that are very, very crucial for individual development as well as institutional development. So list those activities in one place and put them in this quadrant. I'm trying to use some annotations now. So do help me know if I'm able to do it. I'm using the pen here. This is the zone. This is the zone where I'm trying to place the activities which are high on institutional expectations and which are high on personal development expectations also. For example, research, or maybe teaching, or I may say projects and consultancy. Both institution and individuals prefer to be engaged in these activities. But there is a second set of activities. If you look at the metrics, these are high on personal development agenda, may not be high on organizational development. I would just try to see if someone can contribute in the chat box. What are those kind of activities जो हमारी priority में तो हैं, शायद institution की priority में नहीं.
Better salaries. Better salaries.
Wonderful, ma'am, and very prompt. So you may say that your priority is to develop your
salaries and probably even the workload also. They feel that yes, there should be more workload from organizational perspective.
Okay, so can I say that, ma'am, rationalizing the workload? आपकी priority में तो है कि मेरा workload rationalize हो जाए. Institution की priority में workload rationalize करना तो नहीं.
Yeah. That is.
And then I don't intend any offenses, but I'm just trying to say there are certain things which are high on personal development, may not be very high on institutional agenda. अब ये जो चीजें ऑर्गेनाइजेशनल और पर्सनल दोनों डेवलपमेंट के लिए हाई है, please prioritize or allocate your time in such a way that you invest your maximum time in these activities and invest that time during your college hours to the maximum. Because these are those activities which are contributing to the institutional development. So the institution would never discourage you to pursue these activities. But if there are certain activities which are high on personal development, be pretty high on organizational one. Like suppose if I say I want to pursue a higher qualification, maybe it is not something which is directly going to benefit the institution because I have the reasonable qualifications to serve as an assistant or an associate professor in my institution. But there is something that I want to pursue out of interest. Or maybe there is something that you've been associated with a trainer's body or a teacher's body that is organizing a lot of interventions, which is not directly under the aegis of your institution. Like I am a life member with many professional bodies. So they may be organizing interventions or certain development programs which are not directly under the banner of my institution. So my institution does not have it in priority, but it is in my priority, right? So certain things which are not institutional priorities, but individual priorities, you must pursue them so that you stay motivated. You have a reason every day to look forward to. You do not get frustrated because a frustrated teacher can never create a conducive learning environment. As Richard Branson says, unhappy employees can never create happy customers. Similarly, unhappy teachers can never create happy students. So such activities, I would suggest, pursue it diligently, but please invest your personal time in this. When you are at work, when you are at institution, ethically, you should invest more time to the activities that are an organizational responsibility. But there are certain things which are into a personal pursuit of excellence. There you can invest time during your personal hours and seek some support from the institution in an ethical and transparent way. But your time for these activities should be largely drawn or earmarked from your personal time. Now, there are certain activities which are high on organizational development, may not be high on your personal development agenda. Activities like
working for documentation and all that work for NAC or some accredited.
NAC and accreditation and rankings and UGC.
And organizing seminars for such kind of accreditation.
That perhaps may help in your API enhancement also. But I think admissions is one area. Because you as a teacher ultimately wishes to go and teach in the class.
Even placements also.
In placements of late, I have seen that many of the professional academicians feel that it is enhancing their interface with the corporates, helping them also. Even that can lead to consultancy projects for you as an individual. But yes, to some extent, I can say that admissions, administrative work, particularly documentation, and these accreditations and all may be high on organizational agenda, may not be high on your personal agenda. Can anybody help me figure out what can be the best approach to manage these activities? I would put it in the chat box in one word, and that too in caps, because I would emphasize on this: collaborate. Make teams at workplaces, create collaborative teams with your colleagues so that this work gets distributed. This is important for the organization, and your loyalty to the organization commands that you should be actively doing it and meticulously doing it. But if you invest too much of time in this, then gradually you develop that sense of lack of gratification. So for such things, better try to collaborate. Distribute ho jana chahiye. And I would request all the institutional leaders here to see that these kind of activities we do not overload certain people with. I don't know how many of the friends here would agree with me, but I have this observation: if somebody is good with these kind of activities, there is a tendency, inherent tendency, or I can say there are certain unseen forces which push you more into these activities. It's something like जो अच्छा कर रहा है आपको पता भी नहीं, but आपको लगता है पूरा environment institution कैसा हो गया कि वो आपको इन्हीं activities में धकेलते जा रहा है. Just because you've established and you've proven that you're good with it, you're expected to continuously keep doing it, right? अब आपको लगता है you are frustrated, you really don't know how to say no because you know it is important for the institution. Your management expects it. But let us create those kind of institutions or environments where we take the onus to see that not individuals are overloaded with this. Certain people are doing research, personal development, and some are absolutely, kind of exploited to do this work. Let us distribute this work. Try to create those kind of environments in your institution where for these kind of activities we can collaborate. So I'm quickly recapitulating. Institutions, activities high on institutional priority and individual priority should be given maximum time at the work. Activities which are not high on institutions' wish list but high on your personal development should consume your personal time with some institutional support of resources, or maybe library, or maybe approvals or sanctions or backing or encouragement, I would say. Activities that are high on the organizational wish list may not be very high on individuals' wish list, but we are supposed to do it. We should do it with a genuine heart, but we should collaborate. If distribute हो जाता है तो इसको लेके जो discomfort या dissonance है वो भी neutralize हो जाता है. We believe everybody is doing it, so it is good. I will also do it. Create a more collaborative environment. And how about these activities which are neither high on a personal wish list nor on organizational? What kind of activities are these? जिस पे ना इंस्टीट्यूशन ज्यादा फोकस करना चाहता है बट करना पड़ जाता है, एंड इंडिविजुअल्स भी नहीं करना चाहते.
Something like social work sort of thing, like related. Social work means like some blood camps you are participating.
Maybe some community building activities जिनकी बहुत tangible outcomes नहीं है, but we are doing it because most of the institutions are doing it, or it is a part and parcel of the academic processes, but not adding much to the institution. So I can say, ma'am, these kind of social activities or maybe certain student activities जो student experience के लिए करते हैं, maybe you do not personally enjoy it और institution को भी इससे कुछ बहुत outcome नहीं मिल रहा है. No, so these kind of activities I would say should be dedicated more to the students. Don't take me wrong, his student के development में help करेगा. I hope Vinodni ji you would agree that if students take part in community outreach programs, in these social works or in these kind of activities, they get
students also can work out like like the mock interviews, preparing them for the mock interviews, or kind of role plays sort of, where student growth, the student consciously for the students
entrust the student with this responsibility.
Yeah.
Okay, there's an interesting answer. Constitutional obligations. Wonderful. So I would suggest that delegate these responsibilities to those hands who would be benefited. They would get some first-hand experience of doing things. They would learn to take responsibilities. They would learn to manage resources. They would learn to coordinate activities. They would learn to write well. They would learn to prepare certain set of documents. They would learn some basic mannerisms of interaction. They would take up responsibility. It is going to benefit them, but it would not pressurize you. So entrust them with the responsibility, onus, I would say ownership and the kind of command for these activities should be put. So how institutions are directly contributing to the society. Maybe those awareness camps that we organize, legal aid camps, or maybe something like now what we say that Anandam, that is a mandate from the state government. A lot of Anandam activities are somehow, they're going to help students develop a lot, have a joyful experience. These acts may not where you would want faculty members to invest more time, or maybe you would not like institutional resources to be engaged with this. So this is something we can entrust the students with some sort of guidance, some sort of, direction, and let them, they're very, very resourceful. They have a very strong network and very quick access. So we can kind of,
ma'am, like this one with Manrega, this Mahatma Gandhi National Rural. So they wanted our students to go with, recently I attended a session, 1 week FDP. So they told us to take students as volunteers to support this. Probably I would say this can be part of this.
Absolutely.
Developing students.
Absolutely. Your role here should only be advisory or guiding the students.
Yeah.
They are the learners, let them take this. So institutional resources should not be engaged much on this. Students should be. Let us see that prioritize. So I'm just getting a simple approach, put them in 4 quadrants, very wisely, prudently, without any personal bias or frustration, and see कि जो काम institution or individual दोनों के interest के हैं, उनमें हमारा maximum time जाना चाहिए during our work hours or even beyond work hours. The activities which are more important to us should not consume the institutional time. Institution is not just paying us, they are giving us an identity. I always say that my institution is integral to my identity. If I'm working with IBS, it is not just that it is an employment. I'm carrying this persona, I'm carrying this esteem, I'm carrying this stature because of IBS. So IBS ka time should be more for IBS activities. Similarly, Subodh ka time should be more for Subodh ki activities. So your personal activities should be, helped or supported by the institution, but most of your time for these activities should be your personal time, not the institutional time, ethically. And again, activities high on institutional wish list. Please collaborate, delegate, distribute, create a robust team of people who join hands and do it. I would say social loafing nahi hona chahiye. We should not have, and this is the responsibility of institutional heads, I would say. Social loafing as in बहुत free riders होते हैं ना, 4-5 है जो 24 घंटे यही काम कर रहे हैं, the others are, pursuing their research interest or pursuing their personal development interest. Don't exploit good people. People who are good with these works, people who are sincere, should not be forced to do this. So it should be everybody doing it. Now, next is something that I want to talk about, individual, not just as academic professionals. I would say, look at yourself as a person who has variety of aspirations, variety of interests, variety of goals. How do I balance? So this gaps analysis is an approach that today, if I plan a strategy, how do you wish to capitalize on your strengths? How do you wish to address your weaknesses? And how do you wish to plan? How do I achieve my goals? So I would put it like, these are 4 quadrants: gaps, goals, abilities, standards, and perceptions. But we will travel in a reverse way. I'll tell you why have I taken it in a reverse approach. The first is set your goals. When I say set your goals, each one of us should spend good time profoundly thinking about what do I wish to. The other day I was writing and I just thought, I'm not great with research papers, but at the same time, I'm good with designing training modules. I'm good with writing case studies. I'm good with designing these kind of development programs for, faculty members and corporate representatives. So I should be more active in FDPs and MTPs and case studies. So I wrote that, okay, these are the number of FDPs or MTPs I wish to put as a target, I wish to do in one academic calendar year. These are the number of case studies I wish to write in one calendar year. These are the types of courses I wish to excel in, or these are the types of interventions I wish to really accomplish on. So write your career objectives. I remember कितने साल पहले I met somebody who told me मेरा सारा plan set है 2009 तक मुझे associate professor बनना है, इस time तक मुझे professor बनना है, इस time तक I would like to take a position of a director or something in an institution, और उसके बाद my role should be larger, institution building. I should be taken as an academic leader. So I was like, बड़ा अच्छा systematic plan है, कैसे achieve करेंगे, इसका क्या agenda है? He said, मेरा सब कुछ सेट है, मैंने तय कर रखा है कि इतने टाइम तक मैं इतने PhD स्कॉलर्स भी सुपरवाइज कर लूंगा, तो कोलैबोरेशन में इतने पब्लिकेशन. आई वाज सीरियसली अम्यूज्ड. पूरा मैप बना हुआ था कि क्या करना है. I did not get the opportunity to meet that gentleman again. कि वो सब कुछ अचीव कर पाया नहीं, but I was fascinated by his planning. So what I wish to say here is, please list in the step 1 what are your career objectives, what are what you wish to achieve. Okay, there is a request that we share the presentation. What I would do, Yogesh, I would share the presentation with the organizing committee of Subodh College, and it may be then circulated to the participants. And trust me, it is not about PPT. There's no rocket science in this. It is just that we are discussing. So first step is your objectives, or what you wish to do, and how do you plan to do it. Certain things I may be very good with, I can do individually. Certain things I may not be great with, I should collaborate. Perhaps I remember Swati ma'am, we were talking last time when we met कि बहुत सारी interventions ऐसे साथ में plan हो सकते हैं. So what were we trying to do, that certain things we can do together, within our institution, beyond our institution. So when you plan strategies, see what are the things that you can do individually, what are the things that you need to collaborate for. किससे collaborate करके करना है? Industry से, corporate से, students से, faculty members से, management से. So plan your strategy. कैसे कैसे करना है? And do a very honest SWOT analysis. What are my abilities? What are the things that I am good at? I'll be very honest. When I start listing my abilities, I feel that one good thing that I have with me is maybe I express or communicate well. So let me capitalize on my communication abilities. At the same time, when I was assessing my weakness, I got to understand that maybe I do not have that right kind of research orientation. So I may be good at writing. I have the right way of articulating thoughts, but I do not have the kind of ability to bring statistics to my writing, or maybe the empirical evidences to my writing. So clear, my weakness is I need to collaborate. I need to join hands with people who can help me on this front, or who can make me, prepare myself to improve on this. So do a proper strength and weakness analysis. I would not use the word weakness. I'm personally not very appreciative of this term. I'm not saying that it sounds to me like a repugnant concept. It's just that why to even call it a weakness? Let us say it is a room for development, a room for improvement. So list your strengths very honestly, and list your development honestly. Now, why did I say I would take a reverse approach here? Because मैंने perception को पहले लिया है standard से. Reason. Meet out your colleagues, meet out your seniors, meet out your partners from the corporate, and seek their feedback or perception as how do they see you. I may do a SWOT analysis and say I'm good with communication, I'm not good with research. What if tomorrow I meet Tanu ma'am and she say, ma'am, fine, you're good with communication, but at times your audience get disengaged. Now that is a reality check. I was assuming I'm good with communication. She made me understand, no, the world doesn't see you as a good communicator. I hope, Tanu ma'am, that is not a fact. I've just taken an assumption for myself. So what I'm trying to say here is I'm not saying seek validation, seek reality check from your surroundings. So what you have listed as your strengths, please subject it to an assessment or evaluation through the people who know you well, and who are genuine, who can give you a true and honest, candid feedback. So see how others see you. Students आपको कैसा perceive करते हैं? I mean, I have had this comment from one of the students. She knows a lot, and in the attempt to make us also know a lot, she confuses. That was not for me. That was for one of my team members, and I was surprised. कि students उनकी knowledge को respect करते हैं, but at the same time उनका dilemma ये है कि इतना सारा knowledge एक faculty का हमें confuse कर देता है. That means you may assume yourself to be a knowledgeable teacher, but your students are assuming you to be someone who's not able to impart knowledge well. So please take a reality check of how people perceive you in a smart way. It should not sound outright. Colleagues, students, seniors, mentors, partners, in all your endeavors, maybe co-scholastic endeavors or corporate endeavors would help you take a good assessment of your own self. So this would come through a 360-degree review and feedback. And then set your standards. Standards सिर्फ आप नहीं set करें. Standard आपके environment से set करें. Similar industry में, okay, I'll put it this way. How do we compare how are we doing? No. How do you pronounce that I'm doing better? I'm improving. Or I'm growing. I'm on the right track. How do we say that? Maybe perhaps you would say, last year मैंने 3 papers लिखे थे, इस साल 4 लिखे, better है. Well, last year I got this feedback from students. This time it is a higher feedback. You may say, last year I participated in 2 conferences, this year participated in more. So आप अपनी last year की performance से compare कर रहे हैं, how are you doing this year? Second, you are comparing it with your colleagues. XYZ sir or madam participated in these many conferences and I have participated in these many. So your second way of making an assessment of your performance is comparing it with the peers. And the third way is there are certain benchmarks, some best standards, and you're comparing against that. Keep all the 3. All 3 are vital. So when you set standards, see what was the standard that you achieved or established in the last year. Have you increased or improved over that? Compare it with what your colleagues are doing and see how are you doing. I'm not saying that kill yourself with comparison. I'm just saying set healthy goals for yourself. Your colleague may have written 3 research papers. Not essentially you should write 3, but at least you should write 1. Your account should be active. Your colleague is garnering a very positive feedback from the students, but at least you are also accepted well in the students. Your colleague may have sourced in a lot of internship opportunities for the institution. At least 1 or 2 you could also get. So compare it with what your peers are doing, and please compare it with what the best performing people are doing. The outperformers, जिन्हें हम कहते हैं ना institutional stars हैं, और हर institution में होते हैं. We all know कि हमारे अपने teams में stars हैं. So compare with what they are doing and then set your expectations. And please ensure that these expectations are verified with your HODs or your institutional management. मैंने अपने लिए targets रखे हैं. How does my institution look at it? Do they also endorse the same? अगर endorse करते हैं तो आपको institutional support मिलेगा. You'll be more motivated to achieve those things. Okay, I have a question in the chat box. I'll just quickly take it. This comes from Saryuji. She believes that this question may be out of context, but she also does not have the right kind of research interest. But you have many more qualities to be in the field of teaching. How do you tackle the requirement of PhD? Saryuji, it's a very genuine problem, and I appreciate your courage that you've written it. Not everybody writes it, but many feel it. We all are driven with that compulsion of doing PhD, despite the fact we may not really enjoy research, although it is an academic imperative. There are certain people who are wonderful teachers who may not be wonderful researchers. Saryuji, I would suggest please collaborate with people who are good with research. You may be good with writing, or you may be good with collecting information, or you may be good with reading and making conclusions or interpretations or summarization. So collaborate with your colleagues. You may do that kind of work that you enjoy, or you may plan, if you're good with training and all these things, you plan FDPs, MDPs, and help your colleagues join you with that. Mutual reciprocation. तो जो आप अच्छा कर रहे हैं उसमें आप उनको अपने साथ दे लीजिए. अगर PhD वाला इशू है तो I would suggest that look out for a topic जो आपके interest के साथ बहुत match करता है, and go for a qualitative research. शायद you'll be able to steer through. qualitative research as in you don't go for a topic that requires a high degree of statistical orientation, but you may go for a topic that requires more of maybe an action research or something, or a topic जो आपको बहुत interest करता हो, वहाँ पे शायद it would be easy to continue, your endeavor and finish it in one go, I would say. And so this is how I look at it. What academicians should essentially do: set goals, analyze your own abilities and the scope to improve, see how others perceive you or how others assess your performance. And this can again be, as I said, you can take it as GASP or you can even take it as GAPS. For some reason, I would say that first please collect the perceptions or the feedback or the opinions of others to see where do they find you, and then set standards for, okay, this is what I wish to accomplish. So, any questions till this time, friends? Have I been able to kind of give a simplified version of how to meet different types of contrasting objectives?
Madam, I have one, challenging sort of thing. Suppose institutions, especially your, not just peer group, but your higher ups, right? If they believe in, quantitative work than qualitative work, say, for example, attendance work, all that stuff and all, rather than research and all. So how would you make it up? So, of course, we try to spend our personal time in putting across our ideas in research and going ahead with conferences, presentation, publications, authoring books and all the stuff we do. But if that is not recognized, only quantitatives are recognized, how do you make it up? Okay, personal development is taking place. Personal satisfaction takes place. That doesn't be rewarded even if it is. But still we go ahead with that. So
I would tell you, I'm sure with the kind of inputs you have given all through the session, I'm assuming that you are well versed with the intrinsic and extrinsic benefits, right? I am very sure a person like you is very capable to distinguish, how an intrinsic motivation is essential to an individual's, you keep going kind of thing.
True.
I would suggest become a little wicked. And please don't record this. This is off records. I'm just sharing with a clean heart that for certain things we should become wicked. Wicked as in, take help of technology. Certain types of quantitative activities, the burden can be reduced if you're good with technology. Try to explore those technology tools and use them that would ease this pressure. Be it attendance or be it anything, I tell you, there are ways to make it easier if you're using technology. So use ICT for your best benefit. Second, I can suggest, with no malintentions, entrust students with such responsibilities. Make them feel that you are the process owner. So I'll be very honest, what I generally do, I do not capture attendance in the class. That doesn't interest me much. So I would give the register to one of the scholars and make him or her sit there and say, take a track of how they are performing in the class. And you have to do it thrice in this one class to see if they're engaged throughout the class. So I just want to see your observation and how well you can see that if there is an engagement happening in the class. And after this, come to me with the feedback, what percent of population of the class you felt that was not engaged. So I keep distributing this responsibility, not stationing to one person. So many times मुझे ऐसी जो चीजें लगती है ना quantitatively count होती है, qualitatively नहीं होती है, उनको मैं उन hands में delegate करने की कोशिश करती हूँ, जिसमें मुझे ये guilt ना रहे कि I'm exploiting somebody, but at the same time I'm just giving somebody a sense of ownership or belongingness that yes, I have entrusted faith in you. And then on those dimensions, I would also try to take support of technology. And as I understand from your question, maybe the institution does not take cognizance of or does not recognize your qualitative enhancement or your qualitative endeavors. I would suggest that there are multiple platforms today, ranking platforms, accreditation platforms, where you can submit these accomplishments of yours. A lot of teacher rankings and a lot of accomplished women achievers, or maybe some sort of professional or trade bodies where you can get associated. And those accomplishments of yours can seek a platform or maybe seek the right kind of showcase from those channels. I'll give you an example. A couple of times there are certain training plans with me which I think I can do really well. So I'm a life member with ISTD, I'm a life member with IMA, I'm a life member with many similar bodies. So I channelize those kind of my endeavors through these bodies. So I do not expect that my institution would help to that extent. I see if there can be other channels to go. But fortunately, I belong to an institution that is, I think, perhaps one of the rarest institutions that encourages a lot of individual. So I just hope, Vinodini, tomorrow when you reach to a position of an institutional leader, you create that kind of environment for the people who, the next set of academic.
Definitely. I would certainly take this as a great suggestion. I would try to work on that. Thank you so much.
And I really wish to see that someday people like us who know that these are the dilemmas an academician goes through, tomorrow we create, better and more organic and more, progressive educational institutions where we appreciate the personal development interest of the team and give them opportunities, balancing with the institutional opportunities.
True, very true.
Any other questions, friends? I am done with my content. The forum is open. And really thankful for the encouraging comments in the chat box. I did not want to make it much complicated. I just thought if we can finally close with some solution, how we can balance these diverse expectations. So I think...
anybody else want to ask something? Some more interactions? I think it's over. Over to you, Tanumay.
Thank you so much, ma'am. The session was very informative and interactive. I'm sure we have learned a lot about personal and organizational goals as well. Thank you, ma'am, for enriching us with your valuable knowledge. It was a pleasure having you and listening to you. Before moving any further, kindly give me a minute for a group take. Kindly switch on your camera. Thank you.
I again request you to please open up the cameras.
Program. Kindly find the feedback link in the chat box. Now I request Dr. Swati Jain to kindly propose a vote of thanks.
On behalf of Subodh Mahila College family, I would like to express a sincere thanks to Dr. Vivek Ranga sir and Dr. Shweta Jain ma'am for being resource persons for day one of the program. The way both of them have explained the topic is exemplary. I hope everyone is inspired and motivated by their great words. Thanks to both for sparing valuable time. Thank you, sir, and thank you, ma'am. For the participants, we have given the link for the feedback of day one in the chat box. Now there is a small surprise for all the participants. We are going to have a fastest finger round, as sir was saying about the KBC, talking about the KBC. Vivek Ranga sir. So I have a question. I will ask the question to all the participants, and whosoever is fast in typing the answer and the right answer first is seen in the chat box. Shweta ma'am, please be vigilant, and Tanu ma'am also. Renu ma'am, please. My first question to the participants is, as per Vivek Ranga sir's lecture, a teacher should be a pathologist or a doctor. Fast. In the chat box only. The first answer was given by, the correct answer was given by, let me check, just a second. Shweta ma'am, can you see?
On the first answer came
Pratik
from...
Sogani has given the right answer. The teacher has to be a doctor. I think he is the first one, or the first one is just
see Dr. Ruchi Gupta as the first.
Yeah. Dr. Ruchi Gupta.
Dr. Ruchi Gupta.
Yeah. Dr. Ruchi Gupta got the fastest finger first here. She is the winner for the fastest finger. The second question for you, participants. As per Dr. Shweta Jain ma'am, The coat of arms has how many sections?
I think the answer first came from Saryuji.
Saryuji, I request you to please open up the camera, and I request Ruchi Gupta also to open up the camera. You are the winner of the fastest finger of the day. A great round of applause for you both. With this happy note, we come to the end of the program for day 1, and tomorrow we'll see again at sharp 2 o'clock through the link. The link will be shared on the WhatsApp group. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.